Hello and welcome to another edition of your favourite podcast, Insane in the Membrane.
Insane in the Membrane.
And this week I'm joined by the man, the legend, the one and only Markus Birdman. Hello.
Hello, you alright?
Yeah, good, you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you very much. I'm sitting in sunny Essex looking at the sea.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm looking out of the window onto the car park of our flat.
Nice.
The sea is away. It's over the houses. It's not far.
Yeah, how
Standing over there.
far are you from the sea?
About 5 minutes. Not
Okay,
even that.
that's
It's
not
about. It's easier than where you are because you've got to go down footpaths and things like that. Whereas ours is just completely flat because it's all old people, so
Right.
they can't traverse steps.
So just roller skate to the beach.
That's where I'm at now. I'm at the centre of rollerblading.
Am I allowed to say where you live? Is it a nice beach there?
Yeah. It's the same as Brighton, so it's stones.
Yeah.
But it's flat, and there aren't any. You don't get any sort of stags and hens.
Right.
Flapping about. It's a bit more chilled out. You get all the good bits of Brighton, but you don't have to put up with all the shit. You can come out and it's a bit more subdued down here, which is very nice.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
Brighton's a bit. I was in Brighton at the weekend, and it is full on.
Yeah. It is a bit, and there's a lot of. It feels a bit aggy. It's at night. Whereas it's supposed to have this chill kind of sort of ravey hippie vibe. I think there's too much gear around.
There's too much gear around everywhere, isn't there? I mean, everywhere's mental. I'm going to be in Bath tonight, which by day is the most idyllic place, as you well know. And then at night, it's feral and not a GCSE between them.
So I used to love it. I love it. Like all the books that I enjoy and all the films that I enjoy talk about when the freaks come out at night. You and I have known each other many years. You know this. You're very similar to me. But suddenly, I don't know if it's age, but kids, when the sun goes down now, it's like, yeah, I'm probably going to slide off. I don't need to be around this.
Yeah, but it's not freaks, is it? It's not the freaks and it's not the goths and the kind of ne'er-do-wells in one sense. It's all a load of, as you say, gacked up kind of like builders in their 20s, and they're not freaks. They're I don't know what they are, but like the
animals, half of them.
Yeah, but I think it's not the what we'd term the kind of alternative people, of which, I mean, that's always the thing, and we've discussed this in the past, but like, everybody kind of goes, oh, don't go in there, it's full of bikers or it's full of goths, and you go, that's the safest pub to be in. That's the one you want your children. That's the one you want your children to be in, or your children. But you like your sort of because that's not where you're going to get snooker cued over the head. You might if
they're going to escort you home.
You might if you say they like the Mission, but apart from that,
hey, come on, God's Own Medicine's a great album.
That'll get you snooker cued round here, Wilson.
Here he comes.
with his black snooker cue.
He's painting himself. It's all over his hands.
Maybe you'll just see a neon like a lightsaber in the darkness.
You got to let it go, Wilson. You're 51. Come on, mate. But how are you doing anyway? You good? You're on tour?
On tour, yeah. I mean, that's both much better and much worse than I anticipated. It's really lovely to be. So I'm doing it with Melinda, who's supporting me.
Yeah,
and that means, like I'd heard in the past that touring can be quite lonely because you go from that kind of gig environment where you know at least one person, and you're sort of who you probably like on the bill. And you're surrounded by a sort of infrastructure, and the promoter or the club that and then you go and you're backstage on your own in Portsmouth or something, and I've heard that it can be quite lonely. So it's been really beautiful to do it with Melinda. So I haven't had any of that. It's been really nice.
Yeah, lovely.
It's stressful to get bums on seats. I mean, that's the age-old problem, and I'm furiously working to sort of. Whoring myself on social media and radio stations and podcasts, etc., to try and get people in. So it's. I mean, everybody says this, but it's quite a revelation. I'm enjoying that actually. But it's hard work. Yeah, I've just become a marketer. Well, we all have, haven't we? Really we're in marketing now. We're not in comedy.
Yeah, this is it. You've got to be your own. It's really difficult as well to be your own hype man. I find this really difficult where you're having to keep asking for things like, can I come on this? I've got this to plug. I've got these to sell. Can I come on this? Can I come on that? And it's just, it's a full-time job now. I'm not people listening. I'm not complaining. I'm not saying that, it's like driving a van or it's like, digging holes in the floor.
It's much less paid. It's much worse paid than that.
Oh, let me tell you, I've thought about painting and decorating so many times. My cutting in is legendary. But it's now, we now have to be the kings of admin. And for people like us that were never really big on that sort of thing, it's hard. It's hard to get into this.
Yeah, I think that like and this as well, as do you, teach a few people, mentor a few people, and I always ask, what do you want?
Yes,
because if you want to be a famous comic, I can't help you. The way to be a famous comic in 2023 is to be an Instagram legend. If you want to be a good comic, that will get you probably nowhere. But if you want to be a good comic, I do know a thing or two, and that seems. I'm complaining, Rich. I do. I find it really desperate. It's not. I know things shift and stuff, and I don't want to be that kind of guy that says, "Oh, punk music's rubbish," kind of thing. It wasn't like it was in my day. But I am complaining. I think I really do think it's to the detriment of stand-up comedy that people are. It has to, and I'm not singling out any one person particularly. No, but if you spend, there's only so many hours in a day, and when I used to spend, X hours a day sitting down and writing comedy, if I now spend half of those hours, or indeed all of those hours, sitting on Instagram, I'm not writing comedy, and that's the bare facts of it, of where we're all at, And I do think comedy. I did a gig the other day, and it really felt like a gig from about 2005 because everybody was really funny and liked each other, and stuck around to watch. And I was like,
holy shit!
I know, by a sort of provincial promoter who gave a shit, and paid us properly. And it was just like, it's so rare for all the comics to stick around and for everyone to be really good.
I had it last night. It's very same. It was when the middle act turned around, and we've worked together a few times. And she said, and she was getting the train back to London, and she said, I'm gonna hang around. And I'm gonna watch you. And I was like, what? She said, yeah. I'm like, oh, thank you. Okay, brilliant. And we had such a nice time. Everybody got on. We were all talking about each other's sets and saying, oh, I love that gag. Oh, that's a really good one. There was a guy that was on first who I'd not seen before. He's been going about 6 years, but was talking about the craft of comedy, how he wanted to improve his writing. He wasn't talking about Instagram and things like that. And that is its own thing. But people are forgetting that what we do isn't just talking. We think about it all day. I've just been flicking through Adam Bloom's new book and some great stuff in there. And it's, you spend a day thinking about what is a funny number.
100%, yeah, and then deliberating, but just before you hit the stage, that it's not 96, it's 94, and then you go out and you fuck the gag and you go, it was 96, but that's the sort of thing that I think fascinates me and you, and should fascinate a stand-up, and I just don't think it does. I don't think it does anymore.
No, there's that need. We are in this another epidemic of people just wanting to be famous, and having known people that are seen as influencers, and they just record their entire lives, and you're going, but you're just eating eggs. Why are you recording that? And then the video gets 1 million views. You're like, but they're just eating eggs. You eat eggs. Why are you? What is it? What's going on? And you just get, and then if you say anything, you go, oh, you're just an old fucker, you don't know.
Yeah. What kind of eggs?
You go, no.
What kind of eggs was it? There's some funny eggs and some not so funny eggs. Yeah, I
always find poached are quite funny.
Yeah. I don't know what the maybe it's a sort of transitional period, and I think it's just, I got no problem with Instagram comedians and Instagram comedy. I think it's fine. It's great, and people and no doubt people are really good at it, and of course they are, the top ones. But in a way, I feel like sort of stay in your lane. It's like Mo Farah doesn't try and run 100 meters.
Yeah,
and the vice versa. So I'm trying to think of any sprinter I know, and I can't think of one. But
I don't know either. As you were doing, I'm like, what's the other one? No.
Yeah.
Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt, exactly. Yeah. Doesn't run a marathon because he's not going to be all that good at it.
Yeah.
And that's my frustration. But the trouble is, I think now, to extend that metaphor, you've got all these Usain Bolts running the marathon, and everybody's watching them, and Mo Farah doesn't qualify because people go, we're not really interested in Mo Farah. He hasn't got that many followers on Instagram, and he's like, but he would win. It doesn't matter about that, and I think that's my frustration with where we're at currently. It's not a judgment on anybody doing any one particular thing, and I suppose the truth will out, and the good ones will I was speaking to one now who's massive on Instagram and TikTok, and he's just like, I don't invite my people to gigs because I want to get really good, and hopefully he means it. He sounds like he means it, and by that, if he keeps going, he's funny. He'd be really funny, but it takes 10, 15 years to become a really good stand-up.
It does, and that's the thing. I've had this very conversation with two people this very week, where they kind of started, and then it kind of the pandemic happened, and they had to sort of dip out again. Now they're coming back to it, and they think they could pick up where they were before. And I'm like, but even the people behind the scenes that were booking you before, they're not there anymore. Everything has changed. You are going to have to start again. It's really hard, and it's going to take work. And it just, I'm fortunate, like you, we've been doing it, 20 odd years. But that's 20 odd years of graft. That's 20 odd years of, I've slept in Nottingham bus station. I've walked for hours to a gig or to get home from a gig because I missed the last train or wherever,
Yeah.
But I needed to do the gig. There's so much more to it than just standing on stage for 20 minutes. And it's I think, mind you, do you know what we sound? Do you think this is what Mike Yarwood sounded like when all the Alexis sounds like that?
Yeah, bloody hell, bloody yeah. He's probably railing about Bob Monkhouse or something. The
kid.
Well, that's the worry, and I do worry about that. And I'm sure, in fairness, there is an element of that we're Mike Yarwooding it, going. It's like it's not like it was in my day, and I concede that. That things shift and things are happening that I don't even understand, and that, in the same way that we're both big fans of music, and you see that when people invent new instruments or sampling or scratching, and everybody goes, "That's not music," and then 15 years down the line, everybody catches up and everybody goes, "It's great music," or some of it's great music. So there's an element of that. But I also think there's an element of just like, no. I've seen the I cannot name a single comic who's massive on Instagram who I think is good.
Yeah,
or really good. I think there are a few who are massive on Instagram because they've come the other way. I don't know, like sort of, who've sort of retrospected, like Russell Kane or someone like that. But he was a good Jeff Innocent. But it's sort of, they've gone that way. But I can't think of a. I mean, I've seen lots of ones who are really good and potentially really good, but they're not great.
It takes, because like, as you say, it takes 10 to 15 years. I remember years ago, Mickey Flanagan saying, it takes sort of 5 years to start getting booked and paid. And then it's 10 years for people to trust you. And they kind of go, all right, he can go on anyway. Start, middle, close, MC. He's a good all-rounder. We can put him anywhere. And then it was sort of like 15 years, and then it'd be like, right, what can we do with him?
100%.
That person is perfect. They're ready.
Well, Mickey Flanagan had been going 20 years when he broke.
Yeah.
And that's why he broke. And that's why everybody quotes his material, because it's panel beating it over 20 years. It's really good. It's because he's worked on it for 20 years. He's a master of stand-up. And now you've got... It's funny, I had a conversation with Pete Harris, who used to manage Mickey Flanagan and manage Eddie Izzard. And he was saying he was remembering a conversation with Mickey, and Mickey going, I don't know if I can do arenas. I just don't know if I'm good enough. I don't, and obviously he's gone on to that and obviously can, right? But now you've got promoters who are putting Instagram people on arena tours, and they've never done a gig.
No, I know. It's not even
like, and you're sort of going, that is, you've done massive gigs, open for people or whatever, and it's like, it's hard. It's any gig's hard. But you imagine walking onto stage, never having done a gig at the O2. And thinking you're going to do any. No disrespect, but nobody's instantly good. Nobody.
No. And it's a completely different animal when you're dealing with a massive stage with massive people, because it's everything you're saying. Yeah, they can hear you, but it just takes a while for the laughter to come back. There's all manner of elements. There's all different elements to play with. You've got this massive stage that you need to use the entirety of. You can't just stand there in the middle and
you can sit. I found you can sit there though.
Oh yeah, you have to now.
I've actually found you can just stand there, but I take your point. You work in the space and using, I don't know. As I say, maybe we've dwelt on this enough because it's I don't want to sound like an old giffer, but maybe I am. Yeah.
I think that's it. There's a danger that we could slip into kind of like two old fuckers sitting outside a pub, reminiscing about the fact that the pub's changed and
Waldorf from Statler in it. That's what.
Yeah. That's exactly it. We'll just go back to what you were saying about, because now, having worked with you a few times now since you were ill, and now you do it, you sit down, because you lost, because I knew before you lost up a quarter of your sight. Yeah. So that was the first stroke. And now you lost, was it 50% now?
Yeah. So I've lost 50% in both eyes. So it's kind of, right. Usually if I said to someone I've lost 50%, they go, oh, which eye? Which would, that's a sort of logical one. But so I've got a condition called homonymous hemianopia. And that is basically when you are partially blind in both eyes. So it's 50% all on the right hand side.
Wow. So
yeah, that's not easy.
And has that affected everything? I mean, you can't drive anymore.
I can't drive. I can't really. I mean, I can't. It has. I mean, it's interesting because you sort of you forget. Your brain adapts, so I quite often sort of forget, and then trip up over something or walk into someone. I mean, I walked straight into. I came out of a doorway and walked straight into. Well, she walked straight into me because I walked straight in front of her, knocked her completely over, to the point where her shoe went flying. And of course she's of course extremely upset and furious and angry, and I'm trying to go, I'm really, really sorry. She's not really buying it because as far as she's concerned, she's seen a able-bodied, normal-looking person just walk straight into her, and I got into confrontation in the front of hot water in Liverpool, where the bouncers had to rescue me for doing the same thing, because I don't look, I don't have a badge around me going, and I don't look it. I suppose it's the era of what is now termed sort of invisible disabilities or non-visible disabilities, and which people are kind of mindful of, but you sort of have to tell them.
You haven't got a hat on with
A bell. Well, I mean, I have actually. I mean, I make a joke about this, so forgive me for quoting material. But like they gave me a white stick, which is kind of. I don't use it. I don't need it in sense of like sort of to because I'm going to walk into something. It's really so people know that I have a disability to sort of stay away from me, you know. And I sort of say it's a bit like L plates on a car or a South African accent, you know. And so it's that, and I'm too lazy and vain to use it really because it's not very cool.
No.
And when I had my heart,
I think if one of the
I had my heart operation and I had to use a actual cane. And people really did stay out of my way then because I was hobbling up the road with a cane, and I was quite like that.
I think a cane is cooler because we've seen cool people with a cane like Dr. John and people like that, and you go,
Louis
there's
Cypher in what's it is what's that film? The one with Lisa Bonet in.
Oh, with Angel Heart.
Angel Heart.
Was it that one?
Yeah,
no.
yeah. He's got that
Angel
cane,
Heart.
isn't he, and the long nails, and he's just
very
cool. So that also as well, the other
there's
thing,
an elegance.
There's
to
an
it,
elegance to it. There's a sort of, as I say, a sort of Dr. John, Louisiana, slightly old school, pervy, and that's just the look I'm going for.
Pervy old snake charmer.
Yeah, pervy old snake charmer. That would be open, and it'd be a bit of a hip flask. I've always wanted that. Do you know when you open, you want a bit of a hip flask or some snuff. Or something.
Yeah, just in your ring.
Yeah. Snuff in your ring.
Show me a sex tape. but you're right. There's an elegance to that. It looks exotic to do that. But when you've got a white stick, they haven't found a way to make it like that. It's very much an instrument of
illness, really. It's not an instrument of elegance. And so I should use it because it's got me into hot water a bit. So there's things like that. And the other thing I notice from time to time is that my world view quite literally has become more sort of like, I find like, you know, I'm wanting to sort of be overly kind of pretentious or whatever, but one sort of being open to the universe and the light and the energy of the world is naturally slightly more enclosed in and can be a bit that can be hazardous to one's mental health occasionally, because it becomes a little bit, well, literally and metaphorically tunnel visioned, really, you know. And I do notice that occasionally. It's something that I was thinking about the other day. That actually, because I mean, as you know, where I live, I look over the estuary of Essex, and it's a really beautiful, big sky. It's just really good light, isn't it? And I sort of lament that I actually and literally only see half of it. You know, so it's naturally, I suppose, half the light coming into my kind of psyche.
Mate, that's it. And it must take all you've got to fight that, and like you say, it really affects your mental health, that sort of thing. And to come through the fact that you had a stroke already, and then you had another one, and you're like, what? It must be hard not to go, why is this happening to me? How are there people? I'm not wishing it on anybody. But there are people.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's address.
All right. Yeah.
Who? No, I know.
No one springs to mind. No,
of course.
Yeah. But at the same time, you know, it's not fair. It isn't fair that this has happened.
I mean, life's not fair, is it? I mean, I'm caught betwixt and between because so often I would, you know, I'd go into a dressing room and whatever, people haven't seen me and go, oh, you look great, and like and I'd be, oh, thank you, and yeah, you know, and I'd go, well, I'm half blind, but also I'm half sighted, and always sort of refer to the cup half full aspect of it, which I think is very positive. and really worth doing, and for obvious and selfish reasons, not trying to pat myself on the back, but it's just really good for survival to do that. And however, I do think it's not healthy to not acknowledge, not to sort of waddle in it, or what is that the right word? Sort of wade in it in the kind of in the self-pity, because that's different. But to acknowledge that there is some loss, and one needs to grieve that, I think. And I always sort of thought, no, I'm all right, I'm fine. Cup half full, sight half full. I can do this. And I remember when I got not diagnosed isn't the right word. I got officially told that I was visually impaired and had a disability, and I was eligible for a disability card. Very useful on the train. And it made me cry, because I'd sort of I didn't see myself as that, No. And I think it was someone else going, you're someone. I'll allow that, It's just to allow you to be. To acknowledge a loss and a grieving process, and I don't dwell on that, and that's perhaps. Well, no, that's not perhaps. That's totally good, but I think I need to allow myself the space to also acknowledge and grieve that it's a loss. It is a loss.
Yeah. It's one of those things we always. I remember. Over the years, there's been many drunken conversations, where it's like, if you had to lose one of your senses, what one would it be? And never in a million years did you think you'd get to a point where you would. It was always what
was the one you chose?
I think I chose death.
Did you? Because the thing is, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think, I love music so much, and I really like.
With that,
and I think the other thing is, like, it'd be really difficult to do this job if you were deaf. I mean, it'd be really difficult if you're blind, but I think you can do it. I think you can do it if you. I mean, I know Steve Day does it as well, but then there are a few deaf people. But Harriet Dyer, and there are a few people. Jeff Innocent now, right? But I would have thought it's hard. I don't know. I enjoy music so much. I enjoy films and I think, and I enjoy conversations. So I think I don't know. It's really difficult to say. I think it's quite. I think if you were going to lose half of them, I'd say half deaf is quite hard work. Yeah, and even that sort of going back to what my stroke being, you lose motor skills, you lose speech, and you lose eyesight. It'd be impossible if I lost half my motor skills. Man, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah,
and if I lost lost half my speech, that would be game over as a comic. So I do. If you do the sort of stats and run the maths on that, losing half your eyesight's the one to lose.
Man, of course. I know people that. I've just lost the use of the right side of their body, and you're like, oh man, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's not. I mean, what causes this? Is it just a chance thing, or is it a lifestyle thing? Do you know what it was that? Did you even know it was coming?
Well, not the first one. The second one I did, because I recognised the symptoms from the first one. If you see what I mean. I mean, the first one I had no idea, and for weeks afterwards, while they were testing me, I had no idea that it was, I was about 40, I was 40. And if the last thing on my mind was that I'd had a stroke, because it was like, no, that happens to great Aunt Jean with one foot in the grave, it doesn't happen to a 40-year-old man who's in pretty good shape, doesn't smoke and stuff. And I was training for a half marathon at the time, so I was really fit. So, no, I mean, I luckily, I didn't have a stroke that's got anything to do with lifestyle. Right. And actually, that's what most strokes are. They're blood clots in your system. They're not really cool. That isn't to say that you can't help yourself massively by living healthily and not being overweight and not smoking and whatever. But all those are contributing factors. But actually, I think a lot of it's Well, mine was actually caused, they reckon, because I have a hole in my heart. Well, I had, because I had it closed. And the stats on people with holes in their hearts and strokes young are sort of too large to ignore, but they don't really know why. But the sort of, it's really, really common for people to who have had strokes young to also have a hole in the heart. And I hear this anecdotally a lot. So, and the first stroke, I suppose now in retrospect, I mean, the first stroke I had, I didn't have the heart closed, because at that point it seemed they weren't so sure. And I was like, do I want heart surgery on a maybe? Turns out, retrospectively, I should have had that done, because that seems to be likely that's what the cause was, particularly when there's nothing else wrong with me. There's physically nothing else wrong with me. The likelihood that it's happened twice and there's nothing else wrong with me apart from the hole in the heart, and I think they've done more investigative stuff over the 10 years since between my two strokes. It's much more likely that that's the cause, and also the procedures got better as well. It's much less intrusive. It's like keyhole surgery, so it's incredible. I mean, it's incredible what they can do with your hearts. I mean, I didn't have general anaesthetic. I was sedated, but I woke up in the middle of the. And a big screen, and a big what's the like a scan, like pregnancy scan, what are those ones called? What are they called? Yeah, you of all people should know this.
Literally just had one.
Well, you know what I mean. So it's like a massive one, and I guess a bit more powerful than a pregnancy one. So, and I remember looking at a heart beating, and what literally looked like brake cables on a bicycle going into this heart, and going, is that my heart?
Wow.
And then I remember being wheeled in, and then thinking, fuck, there's a lot of surgeons here with a load of gear. I pity the poor cunt that's gone. And then that was the last I remember, apart from waking up in the middle. And obviously you're heavily sedated, so it's not like it's not like you're in any way freaked out or pain. It's not painful or anything. It's painful, and my chest was fine. There's no pain in my chest. My thigh was extremely painful because they go through the thigh, so that was very sore.
Oh, wow.
Or like the groin bit, so that was painful for a couple of weeks afterwards.
How do they? That's what I mean. How do they decide that that's the best way to go in? That's what I find amazing. They go, we're going to go in for his arse. But it's in his eye. This is the best way.
Well, apparently, I remember having a conversation with the surgeon, and I sort of pretty much said the same thing. Why on earth? How is that possible? And he was explaining, and he was explaining, and then I was like, oh no, okay. And he stopped, and he went, "You really don't know anything about biology, do you?" And I was like, "I'm an artist, darling."
It's not my fucking job.
It's not my job. Are you funny?
How dare you judge me?
How dare you? Yeah. And apparently the biggest. I can't even remember whether it's your vein or your artery. The biggest, whichever one, up to your heart is through your groin, and it sort of almost said it's like the M1 of your arteries and veins. So there's literally,
that explains a lot.
There's literally, and it's quite on the surface in your groin. There's literally a straight M1 line up into your heart from the groin. So I think there's another place they can do it. I think it's like here or something in your on the top. But so yeah, I've got to have a pacemaker fitted. I think that's what they
Oh really?
Yeah. So I think the other thing they were thinking that it's probably I historically had a kind of irregular heartbeat. I had that when I was a child and stuff, and they thought that was problematic. And it turns out that they sort of got me in and went, well, the good news is you're not your the irregular heartbeat isn't that irregular to be too worried about. Your pulse is really. The good news is your pulse is solid. The bad news is you've got the pulse of an 80-year-old. So it's solid and weak. So I think that they're also going to try and kind of do that. Wow. So yeah, and I've also got a monitor on my heart at the moment, which I think I've got you to feel at one point. That's right. We had a really good. I was having a conversation with Richard Herring on his podcast. There was a really nice moment. He was like going, so can you, if you've got like a tin heart kind of Iron Man, I was like, no, I've got this thing you can, we'd been discussing his testicular cancer and then...
Oh, yeah, right,
And I was going, oh, yeah, but you can feel the monitor on my chest. And I was like, do you want to feel it? And he was like, do you want to feel my balls?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, go on then.
So that's it. Because has he got a prosthetic ball in the bag, or is it just a?
Well, without talking about, I mean, he said it on the thing, so I don't think he clearly doesn't mind as it being. He doesn't, but you can get them replaced with anything you want. Yeah. So you can have a lot of people do have another one in because they sort of psychologically want cool balls, he hasn't. But he was saying amazing. He was saying that they're now looking at sort of putting things like a Wi-Fi thing in your. It's like I mean, I don't know if he's bullshitting me, but it didn't sound like it. Like that, you can kind of put different things in there. It's because it's literally a ball. So it's a silicone, so it's apparently made out of the same thing. If you know, like false, is it false breasts? Well, I don't know what the term is, but So interesting.
Oh my god! If they started doing that, I mean, you'd be the world.
You'd be a load of teenagers hanging around
bloke on the train.
Well, a load of teenagers hanging around your groin. Well, below.
Listen, it's not my fault.
It's not my fault.
I was on ADHD medication, and it made me do it.
Oh God, yeah.
Has it changed your? Now this has happened to you, and you're coping with it brilliantly, and your career is, it's flying right now, and it's amazing to see. Do you find, has it changed your faith at all? Because I know you said about your dad. Your dad was a hugely religious man, and you were sort of brought up in that environment. Has it changed your view on that, on life? I mean, why are we here?
Do you know what? I was going to go. Thank God it hasn't. Right? It's funny. I'm as you alluded to, I'm a confirmed atheist, despite the fact that my father was a vicar. Mercifully, it hasn't. Again, there you go. There's another term. Despite being very much an atheist, I'd still say I was very religious and use a lot of terminology that is very Christian, and that's perhaps just because I quite enjoy it. I'm quite interested in religion, but I'm not religious, and I'm very grateful to whoever that I haven't turned to God in my hour of need. Yeah, I mean, that always again seems like actually, I don't know why I was thinking, why I asked that. Why I could have turned to anything. I could have turned to you know what I mean. In his later years, Grandpa turned to snowboarding. I think, do you know what I mean? It's like it's almost like I feel like people are so hoodwinked by, why the fuck would I turn to God? What's it? If I like, if God exists, then all this is his fault in the first place. So thanks for giving me the stroke. Why would I? And mercifully, I've clearly done a very good job of getting rid of any vestiges of faith or Christianity.
Yeah,
I can't. I mean, honestly, and this is probably. I think I'm so tolerant of everybody, apart from the religious, who I really struggle with.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like it's not. I'm not saying I'm right to do that. I'm not. I mean, I don't mind if you're religious if you're not talking about it, But if you're sort of people who wear their sort of what their isms on their sleeve, I'm fine. Be you trans, be you black, be you whatever, and you're very sort of strident about that. More power to your elbow, but. People who are really religious, I just want them to fuck off. I really do. I mean, I haven't got any time for you. If you're using that as your, I don't mean if you are religious. That's absolutely fine and that's great. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. But if you're using it, if you're leading with your foot forward as this to the point where this is connecting with your decision making, and we're having a conversation, and that's what you come in with. Just go. I just don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you.
I know what you mean. Having seen the damage that religion can do with my ex, I saw it firsthand, and it was awful. Even though she'd come away from the church, there was still this cloud of, oh, you're a terrible person. You've turned your back on. You're excommunicated now. You've turned your back on us. You're out amongst the sinners, and you're doing it, and you're just like, fuck off. Believe what you believe, as you've just said, but you don't come at me with I'm wrong and you're right because you believe in this magical thing that all he seems to do is judge and condemn. I mean, go fuck yourself.
I mean, I think anyone who sort of is so adamant in their belief and so convinced that they're right is really dangerous. In any sphere, I don't just mean in a religious sphere, but in any sphere, it's like the arrogance of that position. Like I don't think I'm right. This is what I believe, and this is how I conduct myself, and I'm not saying I'm right. Because the arrogance of that is just, and it's so fixed, and so obviously historically, as we know, all of the damage that has been done by. Religion, of course it's been done by other people who are not religious, of course it has, but it's not just solely the domain of the religious to be damaging, but also it's not the sole domain of the religious to be good and righteous and to do charitable acts and to do good things, and that's the thing I often find, that it's like, and certainly with my own history, that there's this sort of ownership on being good people that they have a monopoly on, and everybody else is somehow wanting is evidentially inaccurate, and also it's just such an arrogant position. It's and so thank God I didn't turn back to God.
No, I think it's. When I see like the Jehovah's Witnesses stood in the street with their little board of pamphlets, and they just sort of stood there, and I don't know, it just seems I just want to say to them, look, go and have a cup of tea, go and do something else. You just stood outside an old Woolworths that. That this is what the problem is. You stood right behind you. That's what we should be dealing with. The fact that the shops are shutting down and people haven't got enough to eat. True. And you're stood there with your pamphlet.
However, standing there in front of three bored people who aren't interested in what you're talking about, it isn't far from what we do every August.
3? You had 3 in.
You dreamer.
All right, mate. Jesus, we're all busy.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I had a joke that I used to do about, my father's a vicar, I'm a comedian, similar jobs. Both of us get up in front of rooms full of strangers and bullshit them in an attempt to make ourselves look big and clever, and and he gets a lot more sex. And I think, I haven't got any time for religion at all.
No, I think it was just on my mind because yesterday one of the questions I was asked is there a God? And I just said, well, look, it's up to the individual. It's up to you. You believe what you want.
Did you go, well, Surely.
only early, mid Weller.
Freestyle Council Weller. The Old Testament Weller.
Well, yeah, listen, we've all got our deities, we've all got our beliefs.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yours is Joe Strummer, so and he, bless him, he left us before he could ruin his legacy.
Yeah.
Boogieing with Phil Collins. No one would want to see that.
I'd like to see that now, given Phil Collins. Yeah.
But you're out the other side, and you're like I say, you're touring now.
Yeah.
And you did Britain's Got Talent, which was good to see.
Was it?
It was only because I'd done it as well, and I felt such. Look, it's up to you. Do it, don't do it. It has its place. People enjoy it, and it's a means to an end. They like you. They'd asked me to do it a few times, and I was like, no, it's not really for me. And then speaking to a few people, I'm like, I would just do it. What's the worst that could happen? You get a few more followers, and you get a few more people coming to your gigs. I was like, oh, do you know what? Yeah, all right then. And then you get into the machine, and then and then you just hating it. I just was like, this is so not what I got into this for.
Yeah.
No disrespect to anyone in it. Everybody was lovely. I had a lovely day the day I did it.
Yeah.
But it's just just what it represents, and I just felt disgusting.
Yeah, I was so naff. It's just, all the decisions are so naff and sort of restricted and controlled. And you just sort of go, does it have to be, does it have to be like that? The same with pop music and sort of like Hollywood blockbuster. You sort of go, you really can sell this beige, what Stuart Lee describes as warm diarrhea to the masses. It's like, why they will buy what you're selling. So why don't you sell something half decent? Does it have to be so rubbish? And it's like, by all means have a machine. By all means control it. By all means make a quizillion quid. By all means you manipulate it. But why don't you back a decent horse? Yeah.
Why has it got to be this naff kind of end of the pier stuff? We're all worried. We're still worried about. We're worried about swearing, and we're worried about upsetting. You're like, what is this pearl clutching bullshit?
Yeah.
Exists.
Honestly, the flack that I got for you'd have thought I was some sort of like Doug Stanhope edgelord. And my stuff, and I've got a bit of I do swear, and I'll sail close to the wind. But whatever you would say about Markus Birdman and his comedy, nobody's going edgelord, and then
not purposely so. It's not. You're not. There's an edge, but it's not. It's just what you do. You're not. It's not a contrivance. It's not. I want to be an edgelord. It's like what you're talking about is. It's brilliant. That's how I first came to be around you, was your Son of a Preacher Man show, and you go like, this is just good comedy. And now when I did it, it was like an hour before I went on, and they went, oh, by the way, can you do the Nando's joke that we'd already said you can't do?
Yeah. And
like an hour before, and you're like, well, yeah, okay, I can. So I had to spend that hour
figuring it out,
messing around. Yeah, and you're going, right, well, it's only 3 minutes, but fuck, that's gonna.
No, but that's the thing. I think they don't realise that we, you wouldn't say to a musician or someone who was like doing those sort of dance routines or the gym, it'd go, actually, when at 3 minutes and 15, when you do that triple back somersault and land on that guy's head with your left foot, could you land on his shoulder with your right foot and only do a double somersault? Or actually, could you make it quadruple? And it's just like, yeah, I could, but it would take months to rehearse. And it's like, and people might go, oh, well, that's a bit precious of you. And it's going, yeah, but that's because you fundamentally misunderstand what it takes to be a stand-up. And I don't just go and take a sentence out and it's fine.
No.
I mean, sometimes I do, and it can be, but sometimes you can throw the whole rhythm out. And sometimes you're then thinking, which sentence was it in your mind? And you're not thinking, it's a bit, even boxers, that's the speed that it happens. Boxers then going, oh, hang on a minute, am I allowed to do 2 jabs? Or am I only allowed to hit with my right hand 3 times in a row, and then I can't do it for another minute. It's like, and whatever it is, you're thinking this, and you're not just thinking, do my job. And people because of the nature of stand-up, just think you just get up there and talk and they have no understanding of what it actually is to do, and what someone an hour before your gig going, actually, could you take out that routine or put that routine before that other routine? And you've got to go, you fight your corner and say no, and then come across as a prima donna, or I mean, this is the nature of all kind of stand up on TV. It's not just laying it at the sort of BGT. You know, I did another show that's far more credible, and you know, I said, can I have a chair on stage, because I sit down, and I can't, and they were like, but the MC doesn't want a chair on stage. I went, well, they don't have to have one, do they? But one of your 70,000 people that are running the show could carry. They went, couldn't you carry it on? I was like, well, no. I'm like, I've got a disability. I don't want to carry my own stool on, and then on a gig where I already have to persuade people that I've got a disability, and then they carry my own gear on. It's like, which I'll fuck up, which I don't want to think about, and they just and the producer's looking at me like I'm being a prima donna, and you're going, yeah, you should know this. It's but people don't.
No, it's that whole. I don't know what it is about that about TV things. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's like, just if you're a bit more real, it would be so much better. And it's not. It's like, and I remember when I got 4 yeses, and then there's the chat with them all, and then Alicia was the one. Alicia was like, "No, I liked it," but she goes, "I could see you were nervous because your links between the material were a bit clunky." And I'm like, "Yeah, because I had to fucking cram that. I had to wedge that Nando's bit into. Suddenly, I'm talking about my dad's transit van, and then I'm suddenly in Nando's, and it's like, it hasn't flowed.
It's difficult.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, listen, it was an experience, and I'm glad I did it, and it's done you the world of good, you know. And then that was funny though, when I saw that you'd done it, and I got a letter going, and that was what made me feel better, because I'm like, right, I admire Marcus. And he's one of those people that I've always looked up to. So to see that he's done it as well, I'm like, all right, yeah, okay. Listen, that makes it more palatable for me.
Yeah,
you know
my only worry about this, and do you know, I've been really kind about BGT, and I kind of stopped wanting to be really kind about it because a lot of people have said that to me, and I don't want comics to think.
You've given it a kudos.
I've given it a kudos because that's someone that comics think is a good comic. Therefore, good comics can do BGT. No, they can't.
No, it's not about that.
It's not about. I thought, and I don't mean that's. So let me roll back what I just said about that. Good straight stand-ups can't just do BGT because they are so good at stand-up that BGT will want them. It's not interesting enough, and doesn't suit their narrative enough to have someone just going and telling jokes. And I was having another conversation with someone who was a semi-finalist at BGT, or Stefano Paolini, you know, and it's I thought foolishly that I've got the backstory that they want with the stroke. And I'm really good at stand-up, so they'll just see the quality, and they'll allow it. And I was massively wrong about that.
Right.
I had the backstory, and I was there for not 1 second longer than I suited their narrative. It's not a talent show. I wasn't there because I deserved to be. I wasn't there because my jokes were better than your jokes or better than other people's jokes. I was there because X, Y, and Z fitted, and until the point it didn't, and then I was gone. I was gone, you know. And I think it's like, I don't know whether it was like because they already got their disability quota for the final. They've already got a comic They don't want a comic who's like straight. I don't know what it is, but I'm kind of sick of being kind about BGT. Really, I think it's a bad thing for a stand-up to do, unless you do a very visual thing like Vigo.
Yes.
I don't mean to badmouth other people who have done it and who have done well at it. But if you think of like your sort of Steve Royal, who did very well, Vigo, it's
more visual.
Visual, and it's much more sort of like it's a show, but it's not stand up. Neither of them are stand ups. Vigo certainly isn't, and Steve. And I don't mean that as a criticism. Both of those,
no, of course not.
Terrific,
absolutely brilliant.
But they do a thing that suits that show, Yeah, and Vigo particularly.
It's more of a.
Vigo's very smart. He went, I'm going to give these people what they want, which is a show, and I was like, no, I'm not. I'm going to give them what I do.
Yeah,
when that was wrong,
and that's it. Mate, I would love to have seen you trying to pirouette around the stage with half your eyes missing. Just like as you said in your pirouetting off into tables and chairs.
No,
would have been amazing.
It's a fascinating thing, and I just, I'm grateful for the exposure. I'm grateful for the kind of opportunity. I am, to an extent. No, I am. I absolutely am. But I think to say that was charity on their part to showcase talent in Britain that people haven't discovered yet is It's not a talent. It's not a talent show.
No, but it's done you good. In the sense that you're now on tour, and you're on tour with your lovely partner Melinda. I mean, you've really, since I last sort of spoke to you, leaps and bounds. You're really in a good place. It seems to me.
Yeah. No, I think.
And Melinda's amazing.
Yeah. She's No. I mean,
yada yada yada.
Oh, yada. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah. No, absolutely. She's an absolute rock, and I couldn't have done any of this without her. And with all sincerity, from life to comedy, it's been brilliant, and she's been amazing, and that's been really helpful. And the whole thing, the stroke, post-pandemic, BGT has all been a really good kick up the arse to get it, sort of kick it on, like to sort of go, I think I was getting I think a lot of people of my generation were getting a bit jaded about comedy, and the pandemic came, and that we would have that time to sort of go, God, do I really want to go back to hoofing up and down the motorway for 200 quid, and do I haven't written anything, and I want for another reasons, but the kind of having a stroke, I suddenly just started writing again. Things were interesting, things occurred to me, things were creative, things were kind of funny, things happened that were funny, and it was a real kick in the pants, and I think that led to me wanting to be more. I think I was very happy actually just doing stand-up and making a living. I actually didn't really have a desire to be further up the food chain. I just, a bit, but not really. We've got famous friends, and it actually doesn't look like much fun. No, not really. I mean, it certainly comes with a whole set of new problems anyway. And again, as we well know, we've known people who have got famous, and it's made them more and more miserable.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that's not the tonic that you think. So, I was happy bumbling along. And I think sort of stroke, and then talking about the stroke, and I felt very much like people were really responding to the things that I was saying, because it had a kind of heart to it. And I enjoyed doing that. And I got to that point in a different way, but I think I felt very much more like I want more people to see this. I mean, that was my reason for doing Britain's Got Talent, was like I want more of an audience to come on. And I don't mean that in an arrogant. I don't mean like, oh, come see me. I'm the most amazing comic. I just think I've got a really interesting story. I'm good at comedy, and I'm worth watching. And I don't mean that to the expense of anybody else. You know, you go and watch them as well. But I was kind of like, I want more people to come and see me. You know, I think I'm worth seeing. So that's all of that sort of has been, you know, it's been quite a sort of roller coaster ride over the last 4 or 5 years. But fingers crossed, it's all plain sailing now.
It is nice to be. It's not. You don't really. I mean, we've both been through. I mean, what I've been through is not half as much as you have, but mentally,
it's twice as much.
I didn't realise. I did physically more. I didn't realise how bad it had been until I was out the other side, and now being with Kate, and we've got a baby on the way, and it's like, this is how it's supposed to be. This is nice. It's nice to be with somebody that's pleased to see you when you wake up in the morning, and you know, it's not. I like where we are, and it's nice to be able to reconnect with people that I'd kind of lost before, yourself included, and I recognise what had happened, and now being able to sort of own it and go, that was shit, and I'm sorry, and I'm here now, and it's nice. I mean, it's nice to be where we're at. Everybody, I think it's nice. I like where we're at the minute. Not where I'm at the minute. I'm right in front of the window and the sun's moving around. It's like a little melanoma. But
who's she?
So where's? She's on Instagram. I was googling her earlier. Lovely tattoos.
Melanoma. It sounds like a sort of Eastern European girl band that would have been on Britain's Got Talent. Vote for them.
I'd buy the album. I'd probably buy the album.
100%. Not necessarily for the reasons that you should.
And on that note, Marcus, it's been a pleasure to have you on. We should have done this years ago, and we didn't, but we've done it now, and it's fucking great, man. I could talk to you all day.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So your tour, it's been lovely. And your tour is happening now. Yeah. Where can we find you?
So I'm in Bath tonight, Crawley on Saturday, and forgive me, but I can't remember where else. Everything is on markusbirdman.com. Markus with a K. So all my tour dates. If you look at any of my socials, my Instagram again, which is Markus Birdman, you would be unable to avoid the fact that I'm on tour because I am pimping that one. So yeah,
as you should. Coming
to a town near you over the next couple of months.
Excellent work, mate, and it's good to see. Really good to see. So yeah, this has been Insane in the Membrane. Thank you for listening. This has been the wonderful Markus Birdman.
Bye.
And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.